you do inside the bottom, then you do the outside. Okay, so it's a progression. Now, I'm not going to wait because I'm not doing the whole tab. This is just a comparison product. We're going to put a little bit of this on the floor here. What we're going to do is we're going to manipulate this a little bit. This is like a self-leveling glaze. A little bit. And it says, roll it with a roller, light pressure to move the material around. When you're doing oil and epoxy, you always start at the bottom and you
bathroom floor and wall tiles.
Bathroom floor and wall tiles.
In this video today, guys, we are installing a 10 by 28 accent tile, floor to ceiling, wall to wall in the bathroom. At first glance, you might think, oh, Jeff, that's going to be an easy project, right? Yeah, you just start at the bottom and you go to the top. The trick is, when you're doing a tile project like this, you have a few things to consider. One is the size of the tile, because you don't want your tile going full from the floor and then having a little sliver at the top. Because this is a lot more noticeable than down here, right? Because you're going to have a vanity, we're going to have a tub, and all these things going on. So you want to make sure that when you're doing a tile project like this, first thing you do is you measure from the floor to the ceiling. You get your number.
From the floor to the ceiling.
In our case, it's 80 inches. And then you go to the tile store with that number in mind, and you find a tile that'll stack with a grid line.
That will stack.
Okay, do yourself a favor. This is the biggest key that no one ever does. They go to the store, they fall in love. Oh, I like that one. Let's make that work in the room. And then you run into nothing but challenges. So in my case, my tile is 10 inches with a space taken care of. The
that's not what I want to see. I need to see something else of that. Okay, that's what I need.
So, you want to install a new tile floor, but first, you've got to rip out the old one. So grab your tools and let's get to it. And speaking of tools, big thank you to Shag Tools for sponsoring this video. The main tools you're going to want to pull out a tile floor are a small pry bar and a hammer. Just use your hammer to help get your pry bar under the tile and leverage it right up. If you get lucky like I did, most of your tiles will come up in one piece, but a few of mine were stubborn and broke apart as I was prying them out. Before long, I had pulled the last tile and was ready to get rid of this leftover mortar and grout that was stuck to the floor. For this, I'm using a floor stripper from Crane, which is great for tight spaces. In this adjustable scraper...
Yeah, I need to see a video. No. Placement. Replacement. There we go. Okay, let's see. I need a video. We don't need no shorts. We need video. House out on the floor. Before. Let me see. This one look kind of cool.
Hi guys, watch us transform this small bathroom with peel and stick luxury vinyl tile.
Welcome to our channel. We're Darius and Akila of DIY Power Couple.
And in this video, we're going to do a DIY project that we can't wait to share with you.
This small bathroom looks so good now. Stay to the end to see how it turns out.
So our friend wanted to update her small bathroom and was getting a little discouraged at the prices of stone tile and contractor quotes to install the flooring that she really wanted. We asked her would she consider peel and stick luxury vinyl tile because it is groutable and they have options that look like stone and it's so budget friendly.
You're going to get something like that.
What up? Excited about this peel and stick option.
So her and her husband replaced their old multi-layered wallpaper, painted their vanity, picked out hardware, and got excited about their...
I'm in some YouTube studio.
And this is where the floor transformation begins. What's nice is that we could still use the existing vinyl floor as our subfloor. We removed the quarter round trim and got our subfloor as clean and smooth and free of debris as we possibly could.
I'm past that. We need to see the bottom. No, I don't care about that. Yeah, no, I ain't worried about that. That's not what I need to see. Okay, it's good. Okay.
These bathroom tiles are cracked and broken.
This is what I need to
The
see right here.
damaged tiles need to be replaced. There's also signs of mold in the grout surrounding the tiles. The broken tiles and the mold surrounding the fixtures suggest that there may be some structural problem behind the tiles.
Oh,
We have
shit.
a sneaking suspicion that the project will require a little more work than just replacing the tiles. But
Right.
don't worry. In these 4 segments, we'll turn this cracked and moldy back wall into a bright and clean tub surround in just 2 days' time.
Today.
Here's how. First, tape plastic ground cloths to the adjacent tiles to protect the tiles and the surrounding walls. Cover the tub and the floor with canvas drop cloths. Plastic sheet drop cloths can slide over the tub surface and create a falling hazard. Wear safety glasses during the deconstruction to protect your eyes. Next, using a utility knife, start at the outside of the damaged area and scrape away as much of the grout between the damaged tiles as you can. This will make it easier
What
to
up, what
remove
up, what
the
up?
tiles and keep you from damaging the adjacent tiles in the process. Hold the utility knife firmly with both hands.
I
guiding
gotta
the
do some
blade
work
with
soon,
great
so I'm over
care.
here
The grout at the edges of the
getting a little
damage will
heads
be
up
harder
on some
to
stuff I gotta
remove
get.
than the
I
wet
gotta try to
grout.
do.
In the areas closest to the most visible damage, the tiles may literally fall off in your hands. Here we found water-soaked black backing that crumbled as the tiles fell off. So to replace the tiles, we're going to have to repair the backing that supports the tiles,
Okay,
as well as to discover how the water was getting behind the walls.
for sure.
To remove the tiles near the faucets, you'll need to remove the faucet handles.
What up,
Using a
y'all? Welcome to the
screwdriver,
chit chat.
Pry the plastic or metal cap from
What
the
y'all
end of the
doing? Who's in
handle,
here?
and then remove the screw holding the handle to the stem. Often the stem will have a decorative sleeve. Unscrew the sleeve by turning the sleeve counterclockwise. In the same manner, the spout is removed by turning it counterclockwise. Normally, the spout would unscrew
Oh, that's
from
what
the
our shit gonna be
half-inch
looking like
copper
right
pipe.
here.
But in this case, the threaded copper pipe came out with the spout. The
Oh.
tiles started falling off by themselves. The water appears to have gotten behind the wall somewhere in this area. To assess the damage, the first step is to carefully remove the tiles and try to determine how the water got behind the tiles. In older houses, you may find some surprises. These tiles were glued with mastic to a plaster wallboard,
Okay.
so that when water soaked into the wallboard acted like a sponge, absorbing the water and destroying the wall. Today, there are better backing materials than wallboard and greenboard for shower and tub surrounds. As you move away from the wettest spots, use a small pry bar with a thin blade to pop the tiles off the wall. Our goal here is to repair the wall, not to replace it. So we're only removing the tiles that are over the wet and damaged section of the wall. Underneath the tile, we discovered not only rotten plasterboard, but also a plaster scratch coat that was laid over some of the wall to level the surface. This was definitely an amateur job done many years ago. So our next step is to use a utility knife and pry bar to carefully remove all of the damaged underlayment. The goal is to cut back the wall behind the tile until you reach the surrounding dry, solid, undamaged wall and tiles.
Okay.
Even if the tiles look undamaged, reach up behind the wall and feel the surface inside the wall.
Is it wet?
If it's even slightly damp, the wall and the tiles should be cut back until completely dry wall is reached. Using a utility knife, carefully cut the grout between the tiles. We're being careful to cut away the old grout so that when we pry up the old tiles, we don't damage the surrounding decorative tile trim. This is equally important in the corners where we don't want to damage the tiles on the back wall. Once the grout is cut back, use a small thin-bladed pry bar to carefully pop the tiles from the wall. With the tiles removed, use a utility knife to cut through the wallboard along the surrounding perimeter. Make a series of light, straight cuts, slowly cutting all the way through. In this case, the wall beneath the tiles is wallboard covered with a scratch coat.
Wallboard.
You may find wallboard, greenboard, or backerboard underneath. If the area to be removed is large, cut the backing
What up?
into smaller sections for easier removal. Grabbing the wallboard firmly, pull the backing away from the studs. Work very gently and slowly so that you do as little damage as possible to the surrounding area. Clean up the opened area by prying up any screws from the studs with a pry bar.
What's going on, y'all? What up? Welcome
And
to the
cutting
chat.
away
What
any
y'all doing?
remaining scraps of backing.
What y'all
Note
doing?
that the new backing and tile
Who's
will
in here?
tuck into the corner behind the existing
Who's
tile,
in here?
running down
Nobody?
the adjacent wall. Make sure the corners are clean. Brush and vacuum the opening and clean up the surrounding area. We have cut
we
back
at
a rectangular
we
area
at
until we reached backing
610.
that was completely dry inside, and there's no further evidence of water or tile damage in the surrounding area. The worst part of the job is over, and now it's time to rebuild the wall. In the next segment, we'll replace the mixture of plasterboard and scratch coat with half-inch cement board, a rigid, mold-resistant, and waterproof base for retiling the tub surround. This will provide an excellent base for retiling and grouting. In the first segment, we set off to replace just a few broken tiles, only to discover serious water damage to the backing wall behind the tiles. We carefully removed all the damaged wallboard and tile and cleaned up the area. We're now ready to rebuild the wall. The water damage was caused by a leaking packing nut on the hot water valve stem. For years, the valve stem had been spraying a mist. These bathroom tiles are cracked and broken. The damaged tiles
That
need
was
to be
two.
replaced.
Okay,
The
that
valve
was one
stem
two.
had been spraying a mist of hot water behind the wall, soaking the inside of the wall. Before we continue this project, we replaced the packing nut and tested the valve until we were sure that the leak was fixed. Our next step in this repair
I
is
got
to
a
measure the
bathroom
height
repair to
on
do.
both sides of the opening. Don't presume that the
Got
corners
to
are
change out the
square.
bathroom tiles, the
The second
floor, the
measurement you will need is
walls.
the width of the opening. In this measurement, we have allowed for the new backing and tile to tuck into the corner behind the existing tile that runs down the adjacent wall. Next, measure the location of the bathtub spout, as well as the hot and cold water valves and the diverter valve. We are measuring from the top of the opening and from the sides of the opening. Draw a rough diagram of the board you're going to cut, noting the locations for the center of the holes for the valve stems and the spout. Take the time to double check your measurements. We will be using half-inch cement board as the backing for the new tiles. Cement board is a rigid, mold-resistant, waterproof base for retiling the tub surround. This is an excellent base for tiling and grouting. Our measurements show that the height of the top of the face of the tile is 1 inch from the face of the stud supporting the wall.
Hold on.
The height of the combination of the new
Where's my pen? Oh, I got a pen. I need to write some of this down. Fudge. Let's come back to it. Okay. Let's go.
Inch cement board, and the new tile
Cement board.
is 3/4 of an inch. So we plan to cut 1/4 inch lath strips to place between the studs and the cement board as spacers
Need some
to
cement
make
board.
up the difference. Using a pen and a 4-foot drywall T-square, transfer the outside dimensions of your diagram to a sheet of cement board. Check each measurement twice. Next, transfer the location of the valve stems and the spout from the diagram to the cement board. Carefully mark the exact center point for each valve stem and the tub spout location. Place a cross to mark the intersection of the height and the width measurements. If you have any doubt, go back and check your measurements. In our case, the backing comes down around the edge of the tub, so we've traced the pattern of the old tile to match the curve of the tub, so that we get an exact fit. Working outside and wearing both a well-fitting dust mask and safety goggles, cut the cement board along the outside of the line using a circular saw and a wet and dry circular diamond saw blade. It's better to cut the cement board a little proud on the outside of the line for a tight fit, even if you have to trim it down a little after fitting it in place. Cutting the cement board too small for the opening will only mean you'll have to cut a new board. Cutting the curve for the edge of the tub is achieved by making a series of short, overlapping parallel cuts, running the abrasive blade right up to the edge of the line. Using a carbide grit hole cutter, large enough to allow the valve stem and fitting to pass through, place the drill bit over the intersection of the lines and cut the holes for each of the valve stems and spout. The trick to cutting a clean hole is to cut halfway through the board on one side and then stop and turn the board over. Using the hole as a guide, cut the hole halfway through the other side until you cut cleanly through the material. Finish the preparation of the cement board by cutting out the rest of the hole. Back in the bathroom, cut away any old caulk. Wearing rubber gloves, scrub the edge of the tub with steel wool until all traces of old caulk and grout are removed. Lay the cement board against the edge of the tub and check the fit. Mark the areas where you need to make adjustments and trim the cement board with the saw. Here, the edge of the tub has a lip that will require that we trim the cement board to match. The cement board fits the opening perfectly now, but it still needs to be shimmed so that the new tiles will be flush with the old tiles. We have cut 1/4-inch shims, the width and the length of the studs, to raise the cement board so that the surface will be flush. Before we fasten the shims to the studs, we'll check the fit. The fit is perfect, leaving just enough to allow for the thickness of the tile cement. Because of the importance of the joint in the corner, we'll make a separate check for the corner to make sure that the new tiles will tuck under the adjoining tiles. The fit is good. If the shim was too thick, we would sand the shim until the fit was perfect. If the shim was too thin, you could combine shims of different thicknesses until the tile was flush. Now, using a hammer and 5-penny nails, nail each of the shims to the studs. If there are any cross members, they should be shimmed out as well. Any bracing that the cement board will rest upon should be shimmed out so that the entire surface is flush with the surrounding area. The more places that the cement board is fastened, the less the cement board can flex. Flexing would cause the new grout to crack, which would lead to future water problems. Next, mark the location of the center of each stud and cross member so that you can easily line up the screws to fasten the cement board solidly to the studs. With the shims in place, insert the cement board so that it's resting on all of the shims. If you press down anywhere on the cement board, there should be no movement. Using the marks you made as a reference, draw lines marking the center of each of the studs and cross members. Using 2.5-inch cement board screws, drive a screw every 6 inches along the line of studs. Set the screws so that they're flush with the surface of the cement board. Using a caulking gun and a high-quality silicone caulk, neatly fill the space between the cement board and the adjoining wall board, forming a watertight seal. Allow the caulk to dry thoroughly as recommended by the manufacturer. The cement board backing is now solidly in place. In the third segment, we'll continue the project, cutting and laying up the new tiles. In the last segment, we'll grout and caulk the wall for a professional finish. In the first segment, we set off just to replace a few broken tiles in the bathroom, only to discover some serious water damage to the backing wall. We removed the water-damaged wallboard and cleaned up the area. In the second segment, we measured, cut, and installed a new sheet of cement board. In this third segment, we'll measure, cut, and lay up new tiles. In the final segment, we'll grout the tile for a professional finish. Let's continue. First, we'll create a special tool for tiling called a story stick. A story stick is a piece of wood onto which you transfer the spacing between the joints of the tiles. You then use this custom-made ruler to mark the place where the tiles join. Line the story stick up with the bottom of the first row of tiles and place a mark on the wall where each joint will be. When you've marked the first row, use the story stick to mark the height for the additional row of tiles. In the process, you're creating a map for the location of every new tile. Next, thoroughly stir a container of pre-mixed thin-set tile mortar and trowel it onto the edge of a notched trowel. Spread the adhesive over the first row or two of tiles. Thin-set adhesive skims over quickly, so only apply what you can cover in 15 minutes. Next, slather a coating of thin-set mortar on the back of the tile. You may want to wear rubber gloves when you lay up the tile. Firmly press the tile into place. To keep the tile straight and aligned, temporarily insert plastic spacers between the tiles. In this case, we're using 1/8 of an inch spacers to match the spacing in the original tile. Continue to lay up the tiles, first applying the thin-set adhesive to the back of the tiles. Scrape off the excess with the notch trowel and press the tile into place with a slight twisting motion. Temporarily insert a plastic spacer and set the alignment with the surrounding tiles by pressing the tile firmly up against the spacer. Work your way across the wall, steadily laying up each tile and aligning it with a plastic spacer. The last tile on the wall slips under the corner tile on the facing wall, assuring a watertight joint. With the completion of each row, check to make sure that the tiles look straight and are aligned with the row above. Adjust any tiles that may have slipped. One trick for checking that the tiles are horizontally aligned is to gently bring the story stick up under the row of tiles. It'll be
What up? What up? What up? Who's in here? Who's here? Nobody.